Okay, everybody. Well, I got some new little thing from YouTube saying, here's what you need to do to make for a good podcast or a good live cast and not have there not be hostility and have, things go well. I don't know what they're whenever they flash some new thing like you remember to be civil in the comments. Well, I guess that's on another social media, but anyway, it's always annoying. Anyway, so that that puts me off, starts me off on the wrong foot. But I'm going to get back on the right foot now. Okay, so thanks everybody for coming out. Those of you who have come out and to watch me live, and those who are still in the process of making their way here, and those who are going to be watching this later when it's not live. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of y'all. This is the Cope livecast. This is my coping livecast. This is the livecast in which I'm just coping, y'all. All I'm doing is coping. It's just one big cope, you know. That's all I'm ever engaged in. It is just a massive cope. It's so. But if I didn't cope, I might rope, right? So I've heard from time to time. Um, and again, the way I do these deals is I do my little spiel. I talk for a few minutes, and people can come on and say hello and ask comments or ask questions or make comments or do whatever. And uh, I'm not going to. I don't interrupt my the flow of my spiel during while I'm while the ideas are still fresh in my mind and while I'm trying to express them here in an extemporaneous manner. But once I'm done with the spiel, then I'll go and look at your questions and comments, and I will uh, do my best at uh, you know answering your queries or providing satisfactory responses to your hopefully thoughtful and engaged questions and comments. So, uh, yeah, this whole thing about coping is just and I know I'm old. To a lot of y'all, I'm a boomer, and it doesn't matter how much I say no. I'm not a boomer. I am not a boomer. I'm not a boomer, y'all. Honestly, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. I am Gen X. I'm not a boomer. But whatever the case may be, I know to some of you I'm just an old guy, and and so some things it's just going to be me just not understanding because I'm a boomer. I get that, and it's unfortunate, but it's the way things are. Um, and I know that there are plenty of people out there who are older and who don't have open minds or who don't understand the thing that the world's different than how it was when they were growing up. I get the anger at those who have attitudes like that. It's unfortunate that others who it doesn't I don't think deserve that same kind of hostility still get the brunt of it if they show by their faces that they are older. And you can tell by looking at my face that I'm no spring chicken. Um, though I'd like to think I'm aging gracefully. I'd like to think I am. So that's just my cope though. I'm just gonna cope. Um, so there's little that's irritated me more than this cope thing, and I wanted to just have it all out. I wanted to hash it out in a live cast. This thing where you get accused of coping, or where they say, oh well, that's just a cope. Uh, Basically, what they're saying when they say it's when they say that you're coping or that it's that such and such is a cope, um, is they that you're lying. You're not really, you know, you're you're just pretending to be okay. You're not really okay. You're really miserable. And if you're honest, you would just say that you're miserable. But in order to cope, you say, well, and it's similar to the expression that used to be sour grapes. Like I said in the brief video that I did earlier today, introducing this topic. It seems that it's something that people used to call sour grapes, based on the fable where uh, I don't remember exactly what happens, but I think it's that some animal, some creature, can have these grapes, or is unable to have these grapes, um, or they get taken away from him, or something like that, uh, or somebody more deserving gets them. Uh, but in any case, he actually wanted the grapes, but now he has to in order to save face, in order to protect himself from embarrassment. He has to say, well, they were sour anyway. I didn't want them because I bet they were sour. And so that's what, in the past, when people would, back in my day, Sonny, when people would behave in this way that today it's, people say is coping. Although I think there's been a growth of telling people that they're coping, or telling people that they have, that it's like this, it's ramified as a taunt. It's become a more common taunt than it used to be. You hear people saying cope today more than you would hear people back in the day say sour grapes. But then back in the day there was no social media, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's why people were nicer to each other, and things were more harmonious, generally speaking. But anyhow, um, so uh, that, like, um, I think that with this, yeah, I mean, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to do this. It seems to be part and parcel of the black pill mentality, which I know some of you, maybe not the ones who are out there right now, but I know that some of you still think I don't understand because I'm too old to understand it, or something like that. Um, and again, it's an unfortunate thing, but it happens. And you think that I'm just saying, well, you just gotta work hard. In my day, you'd get a job and you wouldn't get paid much, but you'd work hard, you'd stick with it, and you'd pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and um, that whole corny spiel, which is, it's never been my spiel. I've never harped on things like that, but I still get regarded with suspicion when I talk this way. But anyway, um, uh, you know, I think that the and I complain a lot. I know I pick on the black pill a lot. I complain about the black pill a lot, and I've explained why. I've been through that already. But it seems that, um, the like the old adage about crabs in a bucket. Um, this this where they just pull each other down. You know, this just seems to be, um, often what black pillars strike me like, in a nutshell. It's like nobody, everybody's got to be miserable And if you're not miserable, if you're climbing out of the misery, they want to pull you back into the misery where they are. Because what? You think you're better than me? Oh, you're not miserable anymore? Oh, you've ascended now? So you were never really one of us to begin with, If it whether we're talking about, people who consider themselves incels or whatever it might be. Um, there's something like that often going on. I what brought this to mind for me most recently is I wrote an article for my Substack page. Actually, it was not. It was a kind of a. I don't know what I would call it. I mean, it was only about the size of an article, but it was um, kind of a short story, or it was a short like address, but it was written by the title of it was and is uh, "Lament of a Predator," and I wanted to leave it open ended as to exactly who the speaker is, exactly you know what she's meant to represent, because it is a female speaker. Is she just does she represent just a certain type of woman? Does she is she like a succubus or some sort of mystical female creature, siren-like creature, or is she just just a woman who's bad news, or is she every woman? You know, I mean, I wanted to leave it open for interpretation, um, and I got a response to that from somebody, and I don't know if that person is among us tonight or not. Um, I don't know how you know I don't know how to what I think I have some people who stay with me, uh, and there's others who just come in and out. So, and some people maybe just come in and say a little something, and then they're gone almost for good, or they're gone for a while. So I don't know who this person was. It's not somebody that I recognize as a regular, but he responded to this piece that I wrote at my Substack page, which was a fictional piece, and it was again from the point of view of um, a predator, like a primordial sort of mystical female predator who uses a man, uses him up, and leeches off of him, and then leaves him for dead, and then goes off and finds a new victim. Um, and there was a response to it from somebody who said, "Yeah, well, you know what, Nowicki, at least you had the experience of someone, of being with someone, and having you and thinking that they loved you when they didn't." So this person immediately made it personal. Um, and I'm not going to deny that personal stuff always plays a role in, if you're a writer, it plays a role in what you write about. There's no denying that. It would be silly to deny that, and I don't deny it. But I didn't intend for this piece to be uh, of like, oh, this the character in this, uh, in this piece, in this short story, this whatever it was, whatever you call it, this uh, this epistle. Uh, it's a story told via an epistolatory. Well, it doesn't really matter what it's called. I'll stop being tiresome trying to find a category for it. But in any case, I didn't intend for it to be autobiographical in that sense of like, oh, I'm writing about this person from my own life. That was not my intention at all. But this person who responded to me, who was definitely a black pill, you know, an incel black pill kind of guy, he responded to it like, oh well, you know what? At least you were loved. At least you thought you were loved. At least you had a woman in your life until you found out that all along she didn't really love you, and she just was going to kick you to the curb and move on. But at least you had it, and because they're counter blessings. They're people out there like me. You know, he pretty much basically said like me, um, and others like me. He was his implication. Um, have never even had that. And so I wrote back, just sort of saying like, so wait a minute, you're saying, and he said, to say, well, at least maybe you're lucky to have stayed away from a creature like this. Well, that's just cope. That's just cope. You know, in this case, it was not me coping. It was me trying to make him cope. Which I don't understand how cope came to be a bad thing, but I'll get to that in a second. I'll cover that angle of this whole deal in a second. Um, so so he was offended at the idea that of being told, well, you're lucky because having some parasitical creature leech off of you, suck out your entrails, and leave you for dead is not a pleasant experience. And if you avoided that, then maybe that's a good thing. He was just very like, he waved that away, and said there, no, no, not at all, not in the least, because it's better to have been better to have had a parasite attached uh, to your entrails, uh, than never to have even had a parasite interested in attaching herself to your entrails. Really? Is that really coping? I mean, if you take it out of the metaphor and put it in just if you take it if it ceases to be metaphorical and it becomes just literal, who do you think is luckier? A man who gets eaten, gets his insides eaten away by some vicious parasite, or a man who manages to avoid getting his insides eaten away by a vicious parasite. Which of those two men, which one would you rather be? I would say I would rather be the man without the parasite. Call me crazy, but that's what that would be my preference, and I suspect that would be your preference as well. But somehow, when it's in the realm of sex or romance or something, it's like, oh well, you had a woman who was with you and who willingly had sex with you, so therefore that's better. Uh, I don't know, and thinking otherwise is just cope. I mean, this was irritating for several reasons. Uh, for one thing, it was taking this piece that was meant to be seen, meant to be, much more open ended than, I mean, the way he responded to it was one possible interpretation, but that wasn't meant to be the sole viable interpretation. It was an open ended um, piece, as far as the situation that was being described. Um, so it was annoying that he immediately made it personal, made it be about me, and then put the other annoying thing. I know this might sound heartless, but I'm going to say it anyway, and that it's here. I'll say it. directly to your face. Self-pity is not a good look. It's just not a good look. Okay. Um, I understand it. I understand feeling low and feeling like, others have it better than you and resenting the fact that or yeah, I understand this having the perception of, oh well, everybody else is getting like has their seat at the table and I've been crowded out. I'm not I don't even I at best I get the scraps that fall underneath the table like a dog or. Um, but I get that. I get having that kind of emotion or that kind of response, or that kind of reaction to it. But letting that be your demeanor, letting that become your attitude, um, and expressing yourself in this way to others, like, oh well, I've been all my life, I've been, I've never been let in. Uh, to this. I've never been allowed to be a part of this club, and and I and having that resentment and that self pity be like the face that you with which you face the world. I just don't think that that's not it's not a good look. But worse, but more than that, it's not something that really is is helpful. It's not something that's going to help you. Um, Not just, I mean, I'm not saying it's like, I mean, I guess I am saying it's going to make people feel annoyed by you because nobody likes a whiner, right? Nobody likes somebody who's just going on about how miserable they are and how everybody else has got it better than them and things like that. Um, but that's not even the issue. I mean, the 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 straight facts are that you might have it worse than other people, and people do have it. There are people who do have it a lot better than other people. You know, I mean, and we can spend all of our time, uh, or a great deal of our time, feeling resentful. That, like, for example, I could wish that I was Tom Brady and think of how for someone like Tom Brady, his life is just easy. Has been easy for a long time. He just puts it in automatic. He's talented. He's good looking. Whatever. He's rich. He's famous. I don't know why I thought of him of all the possible people I could think of, but but I don't know. There you go. Um, and I could I could say, well, I don't have his talent. I don't have his looks. I don't have his wealth. I you know it's harder for somebody like me. I'm not some. You don't just meet me and just think, oh my God, it's Andy Nowicki. I mean, most people don't. That maybe some of you are would greet me with the same reverence and awe that you would greet someone like Tom Brady, or that I mean that a sports fan would greet somebody like Tom Brady. But I doubt it. so so I could spend like that's just an example. That's just one example. I could give many more examples of things that you know, for those who think I'm just being a boomer and being lecturing, that I'm lecturing you, talking down to you or something like that. No, I'm talking to me as well. Like uh, I could be, I could fixate on all the people who have it better than me, and all the ways in which they have it better than me. And uh, uh, and that could be my, the way that I just choose to relate to others. Like, and if I read something that, you know, I don't know, if I read a piece that reinforces this of my resentment that I'm that I have it that I have it much harder than uh, than people like Tom Brady, or even like that. That's a extreme example, but you could make it somebody who's just, you know, a lot more uh, down to earth than Tom Brady. Maybe not some, out of this world celebrity success, but just somebody who's who's more liked, who's who's more successful, who's better liked, who's, I don't know, uh, uh, better looking, um, you know, and so forth and so on. There are any number of ways. This may shock you. This may shock all of you because you I know you all think, to you all, I'm obviously the pinnacle. And why would you want to be anything more than me? If you were me, you would just be happy with your life forever. So it must, I know most of you think this way about me, so it must be shocking to hear different. But it's true. Um, and so, like, I definitely, do I never feel resentful about it? Of course I do. Of course I do. Do I never, think, uh, uh, I've missed out? Yeah, sure. I do. I do. Um, you know, um, because I didn't get to do this, or because I'm not doing that, or because this person's richer, this person's wealthier, this person's better looking, this person's, smarter, this person's more talented, you know, this person's just been noticed more. Uh, there are ever so many ways that I could resent ever so many people, and often I do feel just that way. But I try not to let that be the way that I react officially to the world. When you're alone with your thoughts, that's different, you know. But if you want to have some dignity, as a man, or just as a human being, but for men, I think dignity means something in particular, or respect. Respect means something in particular that maybe it doesn't quite mean the same thing for women. You know, if you want respect, if you if, or if you want to respect yourself, if you want to, uh, you know, if you want to behave in a way that uh, demands that others give you respect, give you the respect that you're due, that you're owed, right? That they can't just use you, they can't just walk all over you, they can't just sneer and laugh at you, uh, you know, um, and call you names and belittle you, and what have you. Uh, you can't control what they do, but you can control how you behave around them. And you can control, in general, the way in which you face the world. And that's why I always go, that's what I talk about when I talk about Stoicism, you know, because I'm aware that we're living at a time when, there's this huge imbalance. And, it's something everybody, even the mainstream people are talking about the male loneliness epidemic. I mean, I feel like it's sort of annoying when it gets covered that way, because again, it's not about like I don't want a fucking pity party. You know, is that just me coping? I don't think so. I don't want a pity party. I don't want people to say, "Oh, you poor thing, you're a lonely man." Uh, I mean, I'm not really, but as I explained in a previous live cast, which you can watch if you want to, about I think it was called the Male Loneliness Live Cast. You can watch that one if you want to hear my thoughts on the loneliness thing. But this whole oh, you're just coping. That just seems like that's like the crabs in the bucket trying to pull you back down. I mean, if you say to yourself, um, no, I don't have these things, but I'm going to focus on what I can, I'm going to focus on uh, what my aptitudes are, what my God-given talents are. And I'm going to work on making those the best that they can possibly be. And, I will do what I can, uh, to do my own thing and to be as successful as I can within the scope of, what I'm good at, sticking to what I'm good at, and if that, even if that means I'm not in my case as a writer, if I'm not the next Stephen King, to use another, example of a wildly successful person, um, or whatever. If I always just remain this niche writer, uh, and never really uh, bound into the mainstream, and get mainstream success in any way, then that's beyond my control. But I can still focus on doing what I'm doing and being successful in the sense of developing my skills and my talents, and you can too. We all can in our own way. um, because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, and that gives us dignity and purpose uh, and that lends uh, that lends a dignity to the lives that we lead, and we should conduct ourselves in that way. We should conduct ourselves with dignity. We should be self-respecting and behave in a way that doesn't mean I don't know, conforming to. It doesn't mean you have to dress a certain way or uh, I don't know, like you don't have to conform to some idea of how men are supposed to dress or how men are supposed to, whatever the case may be. But you should you should behave in a way that shows that you respect yourself, and you should. I mean, the Stoicism aspect of it is, you can you may not you can there's only so much that's within your control. You know, some of it's some of it just comes down to the 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 seeming whims of the universe, and you know it all uh, God chooses to make certain people famous and not make other people famous, and he chooses, you know and that's, God chooses what he the wind bloweth where it listeth, uh uh as to quote scripture there. And you can't really do anything about that, but you can do things that you can do something about. There are things you have control over, and this is one of them. So, um, the things I've been talking about are one of them, and the way that the attitude that you have towards towards the world is one of them. Um, and if you're just like always resentful, if you're resentful, and if the way that you face the world is you show yourself to be somebody who is resentful, um, who feels like you're always being left out, uh, who's feeling, who's self pitying, and all that and so forth, then you're uh, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's not just that you're making people annoyed with you. I mean, because people a lot of things, people are annoyed by a lot of things, and sometimes you shouldn't care if people are annoyed. But you're doing yourself a disservice, I believe, when you lead with that. And you know, I think I speak with experience because, like I said, the point I was making a few minutes ago, uh, you know, somewhat when I was talking somewhat sarcastically about how, oh, I'm sure it's shocking to all of you that I'm not just the pinnacle of manhood, uh, that I'm not just the vision of success and charm and wealth and taste and savoir faire and everything appealing, everything good and appealing and delightful. But I speak from experience, okay? But there are a lot of people who get online. There are a lot of people who get on YouTube. YouTube, when you put yourself in front of the world, like, I mean, in front of the world, I know, like, how many subscribers do you have, Nowiki? What are you talking about, the world? Yeah, I know. I just mean in a sense before the world, in the sense that anybody can tune in and watch you. When you put yourself out there are a lot of people who just lead with uh, their self pity and their resentment, uh, over and their and so forth. And I think that's bad. But again, coming back to the coping thing, this was taking a little longer for me than I thought it would. So I'm going to get to your questions, your comments in just a minute. But back to the coping thing, I just think like if somebody's finding a way to not be miserable, and you just say, oh, you're just coping, what are you doing? Why are you how are you helping this person by insulting him in that way? How are you um you're telling him, come on, get real. You're not really, you're lying to it. When you said that, oh well, I'm better off this way, or I'm going to be okay. I'll just do my thing, or whatever. Well, you're just coping now because we know you really want to be you really want to be Tom Brady and Stephen King, and the fact that you're not Tom Brady and Stephen King, uh, and that the fact that you aren't successful in the way that those guys are, uh, or fill in the blank. Those are extreme examples, but if you say, well, I'm okay just being where I am and doing what I'm doing and taking the successes that I get with grace and equanimity. Uh, if you say all that, then people just say, oh, you're just coping now. Like what? Uh, why? Why do you want to tell people that? Why? Why do you want to? Why do you want to grab the crab who's trying to escape the bucket of death and pull him back down? Like, why don't you want to help your fellow man out? Why don't you want to help yourself out? Why do you want to just crab at to stick with the crab metaphor? Why do you want to crab at others and taunt them and say, oh, you're just coping? Um, why do you turn against them? Some of the black pill types, and I don't. I mean, I've seen this. I've seen them do this. Like, you know, if you ascend, quote unquote, then it's like, oh well, you're not really one of us. You were never really one of us. Uh, and now we hate you because you're just a fake cell. I mean, why can't you be happy for him? Why can't you be happy for him? You know, uh, the more you the it seems that the more you embrace this black pill stuff, the more you just descend into this misery that's miserable to be around, and it's the more that you just uh, become awful to be around because you can't even be happy for your friends when they do well. Because all you can focus or fixate on is, well, I'm still not doing what, or I'm still not getting what I want. Um, and it used to be that coping meant a good thing. You would develop coping skills. Like you're going through a tough time, but you cope. You get through because you just have to cope with the tough things that are happening to you, and you develop coping skills. Where this kind of coping was a good thing. It was it was human. You had to cope. Uh, when you're dealt a shitty hand, when you face tragedy, or uh, or just something bad happens to you, you lose the love of somebody you thought would love you forever, um, or somebody that you love dies, or whatever, you lose your job. um, you face a medical emergency that ends up changing your life forever. Uh, uh, all those situations, you have to cope to get through it. And that's before this whole black pill thing about coping as a taunt, or oh, that's just cope, or you're just coping. Uh, Before all that was around, then cope was used positively. Like to cope meant to deal with what you had to deal with. Um, and coping was how you got through it. But now coping is just like, oh, you're just lying to yourself. Oh, you're just being dishonest. You really are miserable, and you're going to be miserable forever. Well, no, actually, I'm not, because I'm choosing not to be. Okay, that's the difference. All right, so I've ranted and raved for almost 45 minutes now. So let me read your comments. Armored Ghost says, Cope by Andy Nowhere. Yes, thank you. And me says, hey. Osprey says, Andy, have you ever read Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon? I haven't. I think I tried to read it once. It was a while ago. Um, is it pertinent here, or to the discussion, or do you just want to know if I've read it? Either way is fine. Armored goes, how do I cope with the fact that the old America is dead and never coming back? That's something we all have to cope with. Um, we all have to, we do what we can to build a new America, uh, in our own way. Maybe it's not going to be the whole America, but maybe we in our own homes, in our own lives, in our own relationships, we do what we can, and we, you know, get in touch with others who share our perspective, and you know. But as far as coping with it, I mean, I don't know. I think you can just. I don't think you just. I think you just let it go. You just have to let it go, and that might not be easy. But especially if you had some real have some real attachment to it, but you have to just let it go. That's what I would say. Osprey, I was born in 1960, but I consider myself Gen X as well. Boomers were those who were in their late teens or early 20s in the 60s. Woodstock crowd. Yeah, I had heard Gen X described as people born between 61 and 81. So 60 would be right on the cusp. But then later I heard 65 to set to 85. I don't know. I think I was born in 71, so I'm safely ensconced within Gen X. I think I am the heart of Gen X. Judas based Mishling says Shalom from Los Angeles. Thank you. Corman Rockwell. I was 15 in 1969 during Woodstock and the Vietnam War. Interesting. Hearing from some different people here. M.E. The pandemic of mental anguish that afflicts our time cannot be properly understood or healed if viewed as a private problem suffered by damaged individuals. Um, yeah, well, I don't, I guess that's kind of a heavy, kind of a deep and heavy quote that I would have to devote a bit more time to digesting. But what I take from it at first blush sounds about right. I mean, I think it's something that a lot of us have been through together. Uh, it's not just a private problem. There's a shared anguish or trauma that afflicts a lot of us. All right. Hello, Andy. My coping mechanism is doing laundry with Persil detergent. Okay. Whatever gets you through the night. Me, it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Yes, I've heard that. That sounds familiar. And I think I've heard it before, and I agree. And that's sort of why it's like, oh, I'm depressed. Well, yeah, of course you're depressed because the world sucks. Society sucks. Culture sucks. It's bad out there. Uh, you know, the worst kinds of behavior are being rewarded. Uh, there's a lot of reasons to be depressed. So, but you've got to again, you've got to kind of find your way past that because you're not. I mean, it's like feeling the weight of the misery can let you know can have some value in that it lets you know where things just where things are. It gives you a reality check, you might say. But you can't just wallow in it. You got to find a way out of it, whatever it takes. All right, copious amounts of 80s music and movies is also cathartic. All right. Um, okay, I've got a few trolls here. Um, okay, Paul Wright with some movie references. Thank you, Queen Diana. I think you might be being sarcastic, but thank you anyway. Um, Parker Peters said Tom Brady chose his parents wisely. Yes. He did. He did. Um, the Mormons, the LDS theology, they believe in a pre-existent realm. I don't know if you can choose. Maybe you can choose who you're, but I don't know. It can't be that you can choose because there are so many babies being born all at once. Maybe you have a certain range of choices, but I don't know. Um, yeah, chose his parents wisely. Oh my gosh, it's Anthony the Wiki. Shout out. All right. Norman Rockwell, I harbor deep regrets, but I got over envy. Good. All right. I just learned that Tommy Lahren is off the market because she's been married for a year. Okay. Wasn't she the one who made that annoying video about about men suck? Uh, that wasn't that long ago. And now she's been married for a year? That was quick. Well, okay. Whatever. It works for her. That's great. Corman, true self-respect is key. All right, I read that Alex Jones went on a rant about the virtues of great white people like Beethoven. Interesting. Okay. A couple of dodgy comments. Paul Wright, Neil Young plus Daryl Hannah. Life's unfair mystery. Were they together? I didn't even know that. But were those two together? I knew that Daryl Hannah was with Jackson Brown, I think. I don't keep up with these kinds of things though. Um, Billy Joe Armstrong. Okay. Um, Drudimus Maximus. I'm coping with beer right now so I can enjoy music and games. All right. That's okay as long as you don't, you know, as long as it doesn't become an addiction, that becomes a problem in and of itself. But you probably know that. Weekends are for coping. Yeah, maybe. Uh, Ryland King. Hi, I just wanted to say have a great day or night. Thanks. All right. I got your nose. I got your nose types in something that's like hard for me to decipher. This is reminding the just last night I was watching the um what's his name Jack's Films, watching this video of his called Your Grammar Sucks, which I hadn't seen before, but my daughter was a big fan of his growing up, and the recent drama involving SS Sniper got me, made me remember how she liked his videos, and so there was a bunch of texts that they look at that are really hard to read, and this is one of them. Uh, Sussy among us, Kai Senat Riz in Ohio, you've Gannett to be rizzing me in Ohio, Max Prestige, Sussy Imposter Rare is show speed, with Ice Spice Bussin Ginnat tens. Okay. All right. Yep. 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 Okay. So, got some good comments there, some okay comments, and some trolls, but so it goes. I guess trolling is some people cope by trolling. Uh, and the trolls we will always have with us. Um, but that's it. That's my spiel. Those are my deep thoughts on this subject. Thank you all for tuning in. Okay. Fred Keeler asks, "Are you familiar with film director Todd Solo Solondz?" I am familiar with him. I've never known how to say his name, but I'm familiar with him. Um, Certainly the movies that he makes are not for the faint of heart. Um, they're among the more disturbing movies, I think, that are out there. Although some of them are also kind of funny, uh, darkly funny. But yeah, I remember Fred. I remember Happiness. I think that's the film of his that I remember the most. Um, and a couple of others, although I'm not remembering them by name. Gary McDevitt, have you ever heard of Wyatt Stagg? No, I've not. He does interesting analysis videos on films. I watched his video on the film Once Upon a Time in the West. Very good. Okay. Thanks for the suggestion there. And Willem the Inspiring Hermit says, have a good night. All right. Thanks, everybody. Even you trolls, thank you for tuning in. And talk to y'all soon. Good night.